Thank you so much, Johannes and Ron. Thank you for having me here at the meetup today. I'm really excited because I'm giving you an update today on this Mission Impossible automatic usability testing project I've been doing for the past 2 years. And yesterday we had another workshop about it. So it's fresh from the, how do you say it? Yeah, very fresh from yesterday. So very new information I'm going to give you here. So you have a scoop of what's going on in the project. Yeah, Johannes introduced me a little bit already. So, is it? Oh, what's happening? Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about the Ladybug. This is a tool for automatic usability testing. And this tool, as Johannes told you, won the RisingSTAR Award in 2022. Since then, I've been making progress on this tool to make it, to really realize it, that it really is a tool that everybody can use. But first, let me guide you through what we're going to talk about today. First, a very little bit about myself, because Johannes already told you everything. Then about the problem I'm trying to solve, of course, why is it important to have this tool? And then a survey, these are the things I did in the past 2 years. First, I did a survey to check whether this really is a problem, because it's a problem that I found out during my testing career. Then I'm going to tell you about the solution, the Ladybug, of course, and the fresh news are the 4 workshops that we did in the past, how many months? Since January, so 4 months. And I'm going to tell you what came out of those workshops. And at the end, you can ask questions, of course. Yes, let's dive into it. Yes, I'm from the Netherlands. I live there with my husband and my 2 kids. I have 2 kids, one of 8, 2 boys, 8 and 5 years old. I work at Capgemini since 2014. First, I was a software tester since until 2020. And afterwards, I gradually transitioned to UX design, or UX research, actually. I'm more about researching why do we want to build a certain solution, who are the users, and what do they need. So that's really my passion since I did a master in interaction design, and happy to finally be in the UX world. And as Johannes told you, I also organized Ladies at UX meetup since 2016. And that was during my testing career where I missed the UX component. And that's also fresh. Since March, I'm also a holistic therapist. That's something Johannes didn't know yet, so I can throw that in. Not something to really go into right now, but it's about energetic healing. And I'm doing that since March to the 22nd of March. Okay, so most of you know, I hope, that the Ladybug won the RisingSTAR Award in 2022, and that's why I'm doing this project still, and I'm updating you about it. Okay, so let's dive into the problem. We have an hour and I have a lot to tell you, and also, of course, I want to have the interaction in the end, so I'm not going to take a long time for things that are not too important. The problem. Well, during my testing career, I noticed that whenever I found a UX bug, it wasn't something that was very well known by other testers. Sorry about the spelling mistake. And also when I brought it to the product owner, it was like, oh, UX, it works functionally, right? Functionality is our main quality attribute. Functional suitability, functionally it works, and okay, it could be maybe user friendly or less steps, but let's do that in the next sprint, or let's put it in the backlog, right? But why do testers only focus on functional suitability? So that's what I learned during my testing masterclass. We are testing the requirements on our user story, right? The user stories have acceptance criteria, and those are the functional acceptance criteria, and those are the ones we are testing. But there are so many other quality attributes in testing. Performance, compatibility, reliability, security, maintainability, and things like security and performance, I notice, are sometimes outsourced to another team. But usability, it's not really outsourced to other testers. Of course, there are UX designers, but they're not always present during the sprint. They're mostly present before, when they make the design, and then whoops, it goes to the team, And usually, I don't know how your experience is, so you can also put it in the chat. It's nice if it's possible. It's nice to see what your experiences are. But this is my experience that yeah, UX or usability wasn't really some representative of that in the team. But usability is something that's really testable and is also one of the quality attributes. So in my opinion, it's about quality. We are the gatekeepers of quality in the software development team, and it should be important to us. We should know how to test it. And why is it so important? Well, maybe you know this drawing. We're developing products for different people and for users, but are also other stakeholders. And everybody talks about what we're developing. Yeah, we should do this, we should do that. And then all the stakeholders and the development team in the end are really happy. Yes, we did it. High five. And then the user looks at it and he has no idea how to use it and what is supposed to happen. So this is really important that you also include your users, that your users are also one of your stakeholders. And as many of you might know, it is easier to find the UX findings and actually all findings, all also functional bugs. Of course, it's easier to it's better to find it as soon as possible, because when you have to fix something after it's already in production, it's more costly. So let's test UX earlier. That's just my actually that's my motto for the past years when I was presenting about UX testing. So how can we test UX? But why don't testers test UX actually? I just mentioned a couple of things already, that they don't really know a lot about testing UX, and also the business finds it not a priority, not always. They say, let's put it on the backlog and we'll see when, yeah, we'll pick it up in another sprint. But as many of you might know, there's always new functionality that's more important. There's also always stakeholders waiting and wanting their functionality in the production as soon as possible. And that's the reason why we almost never get to improving the things that are already in production. So if you have a UX finding, yeah, fix it immediately and don't wait until we have time for improvement. So usability is not tested in a structured manner, because testers don't really know how to test UX in a structured manner, and testers love structure. That's how I experienced it. We love checklists. We love test techniques to know how we're going to test something, so it will take less time, so we don't have to figure it out as we go. And they don't test usability structured. They test it using intuition and exploratory testings, for example. There's not always UX expertise present. Yes, as I told you, sometimes there's a UX designer on the team, but not always. Agile testers are always in a time squeeze, and they do exploratory testing sometimes. Yeah, this is my experience as well. We only have 2 weeks to bring something into production, or at least at the end of the sprint, deliver a minimal viable product. And we have to prepare our tests. We have to do the tests. We have to do the test automation. So I don't know. It felt for me that we never have enough time, and the developers, of course. It's better to do test-driven development, that you're uh, um, designing your tests when the developers haven't even built something yet. But in practice, it usually happens that it comes at the end of the sprint and you have to run to test everything in time. The focus is on automated testing. So it's really a hype. Everybody is a test automation engineer instead of only a tester. So yeah, if you're not really tech savvy, you're not the best programmer, test automation also takes up a lot of time. And UX findings are not really prioritized by the business, or deprioritized. Yeah, I missed something here. So I put out the first thing I did after winning the RisingSTAR Award in 2022. I don't know if you all know what the RisingSTAR Award is, but it's EuroSTAR is the biggest software testing conference in Europe. And they have an award for starting testers. So they used to have an award for people who are a long time in the testing industry and really delivered something to grow the testing industry. But they also have a new award since 2018 for people who are just starting out, to encourage them, because if you can only win an award when you're at the end of your career, it's not really encouraging. So that's why they started with this RisingSTAR award. That was an intermezzo. But the first thing I did after winning the award was, first figure out, is this really something, because if I'm building a tool, I'm a UX researcher. I need to research, is there a need for a tool? Am I the only one? Of course, I already spoke to other testers, but it wasn't a lot. It was only like 5 testers at Capgemini, which I already spoken to. So these are the questions. Do you test UX? How do you test it? If no, why don't you test UX or usability? I will be using UX and usability interchangeably in this presentation, as you might have noticed already. Usability is a part of UX, and UX is broader. And with this tool, I want to first start testing usability, because there is a structured way to test it, which you will see in a moment, the 10 usability heuristics. But UX is broader, and it would be nice to make this tool also broader later on. But first, let's focus on usability, and then we can make it broader. So what test education do you have? This question is, of course, to test if they have learned usability or UX testing during their test education, because I haven't. If you have any testing education, do you feel that UX testing was covered enough? And if there was a tool to help you test UX, would you use it? Yeah, of course, I want to know that. So I will give you an overview of some of the answers that came out of it. Some of the questions, not the entire survey. It turns out that about half of the testers do test usability. And this was something surprising, because I thought it would be way less, but still, half of them don't. And that's also quite a big number. As you can see here, 53% said yes, they do test it, but the rest, and that's then, 47% doesn't test usability. Not always, sometimes, or not at all. So then I asked for the people who don't test usability. So that's only the 47%. Why? Why don't you test usability? These are some of the things they could choose. We have a dedicated UX on the team, and therefore it is never required. UX is a priority to the business. Actually, there were open questions, so you see that it's formulated differently. UX is not a priority to the business. Testing, backend, or not user interface. Yes, of course, then you don't really need UX. I or my team doesn't know how to test usability. That's a big one, as you can see, 25%. And I or my team doesn't have the time to test it, because we're busy, for example, with test automation. The biggest one in this is UX is not a priority to the business. And that was, although I knew and my experience that this happens, that UX is ranked lower than working functionality, it was quite confronting that it's such a big amount that the business doesn't see the need. So you could also say that maybe it's important for this tool, the Ladybug, which will help you with testing usability, that maybe it should also be a tool for product owners or for the business, or at least for the testers, to convince the business on why UX is so important. So that's something that from this survey came into my mind, that maybe the tool should be more than just help and inform testers, but help them articulate the UX findings to the business and why it's important. The bottlenecks is already, this is what I already told you. And what came out of the survey is that the first bottleneck, it's not tested in a structured manner, is 25% of the people that did the survey indicated this. The other one that I wrote down, UX expertise is not always present, is and 8% only has a dedicated UX team. So, but is it 9? I'm really bad at maths today, but 92%, I think, does not always have UX expertise present. That's really a big amount, and that confirms what I already thought. Agile testers are always in a time squeeze. 8% feels that way. Focus on test automation. Oh, I don't remember why this is like this. But at least it came out of the survey as well. And UX findings are prioritized by the business. 42% was a big one. I gave this presentation a couple of times, and switched something, so somehow the percentage came out of this one. Excuse me. Okay, so then after, so this is about why do you test UX, and do you know how to test UX? And this one is, oh no, this one is do you test UX before? And now we're going to look at, if you don't test UX, why not? And 65% indicated that they struggle with the UX testing. So as you can see here, do you struggle? It says 36% says yes, and 29% says maybe. So those are the percentages I added up. Do you feel that your education is becoming a tester has covered usability testing enough? For example, a masterclass or a young professional program like myself, certifications? And they said no. That's 75%. That's a really big amount, and it is different now. I don't know if I have these numbers in here. Nowadays, since 2019 or something, there is a new it's here, a new training, ISTQB certified tester. So there are new trainings for testers for testing usability. But if you don't have this training, or you didn't know that it exists, or you are very long in your career and you're not doing trainings a lot anymore, it might be that you have never learned it and you have to learn it on the job. So as you can see here, 10 years and above, that people said my certificate did not cover usability. Yeah, of course, because it wasn't available. And in here, the people who said yes, the biggest one is also 10 years and above, here 2 to 5 years. So you see, yeah, at least the no's are the highest amounts of people who said that it didn't cover usability. And I also asked them which certificates they have, but I will not bother you with them right now. So how do testers test UX? Well, a lot of them do it using their intuition, 42%, which I already thought. And if there was a tool which would support you or your team in UX testing, would you use it? And maybe if the chat's open, you can also answer some of these questions. Would you use the tool? Would you use the Ladybug? I'm also curious. But as you can see here, only 3 people said no. So the rest said yes. So I think, yeah, they're waiting for the Ladybug. Okay, I already told you about the RisingSTAR, but this is a little bit how the Ladybug would look like. And I will give you a small promo video that I made myself, so it's not professional, but I would like to share it with you. So I will stop presenting and then present again. Do you see my screen? Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if I turned on the sound. Wait a minute. Where are you?
Yeah, sound was on, yeah.
Oh, it was on? Okay, great. And I will just play.
Yeah.
So, did you get it? Eunice and Xander. So, yeah, it's for the people who don't get it, the U of UX and the X of UX. Okay. Anyways, it was just something that came into my head. Eunice and Xander, and I gave them those names. And I was a little bit doubting the the name of the tool, because now there are two ladybugs, because one ladybug will give you information about automatically testing, and of course not everything can be tested automatically, so there should also be another ladybug who will guide you through the process of testing it manually, if I can still say that nowadays. But this gives you a little bit of an idea. So the ladybug is a tool that should speed up the UX testing process, because it will test what can be tested automatically. And it will, on the other hand, it will inform testers on how to test usability in a structured way. It should also help testers to clearly communicate their findings to the business. So yeah, if it can tell you this is a best practice from Nielsen and Norman, this heuristic says that you should do it like this, and all these websites do it like this, and then you can give an example to your product owner, and also give them the Nielsen and Norman website that the experts, the gurus of UX, advise this. And it should be, of course, it should be easy to use and accessible for everyone. And also a side note, this Ladybug tool, it will focus on usability. And of course, we also have accessibility testing, which is, in my opinion, a part of usability. But I will not, for now, I will not take into account accessibility bugs in this tool, because there are so many accessibility testing tools automatically. Again, Wave, X, Lighthouse. There are a lot of tools already. So let's focus on something that does not exist yet, and that's automatic usability testing. Okay, so as you saw in the video, these are Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics. I will not go into all of them right now. I will give you some examples of what came out of the workshops that we did, and there we will have some examples of these heuristics. So the question is, can they be automated? Can these heuristics be automated? And if so, how? And of course, we're here for this tool, so yes, some of them can be automated. So let's dive into it. So this is the new slide. It's a lot, so you don't have to read everything. I will guide you through it. But normally I would go through each of the heuristics and give examples. But now I thought it's a new presentation. I want to also bring this new information in here. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently with this slide in between. We had 4 workshops in 2 different companies, not companies, but I mean people, the surround you. That's what I mean, the company. So I started a meetup group on meetup.com, where we have done 2 workshops, one in January and one last 3rd of April. And I also wrote an article in a big newsletter, not a newsletter, how do you say that? A book. I don't know. I can't speak English right now, but it's something like a newsletter from Capgemini, where I wrote something about this project. And then a colleague of mine at the Dutch police, because I work at Capgemini, but I'm outsourced at the Dutch police. A colleague of mine, which he is one of the people of the UX research team. He read the article, and he was really excited and asked me, "Hey, how can we help?" So at the Dutch Police now, we also have an expert review every month to find out what are the findings that experts, so UX experts, find when they do an expert review. And an expert review is a review on a website or an application with these heuristics in mind. So Nielsen and Norman's 10 usability heuristics. And of course, you're an expert, so you don't have to look at heuristics and only make them fit in that box. You use your expertise and you say, hey, this could be better, that could be better, and you think about why and what is the UX problem, and then it will fit into one of the criteria in the end. But that's something we did twice now on an internal application of the police, intranet. Yes, and at the end of this expert review, we also check, so in what category does this usability problem falls, and in what category is it, what heuristic is it, and is it possible to automate it? So that's, of course, the big question which you want to know. Yeah, and really, the results are really promising. Most of the things can be automated, especially now with AI coming up. Some of the things we're not sure. And of course, we're not really the technical people. So if you are technical, please come aboard, because we need more technical people to to be able to proceed with this project. So that's what you did at those 2 expert reviews. And I also did an expert review at Meetup last April, and that is almost the same things came out of it. So understandability, we want to know the texts on a website, we want to make sure it's understandable. It's in the Netherlands we call it B1, and that's a threshold, or I looked it up today, um, not fluent into, I forgot the word, but anyways, fluent in English. Consistency and standards are things that can come up a lot. I will give some examples. Okay, so I love you too. Okay, so consistency and standards, reliability is also one of the things that came out of it. For example, a search, when you're searching for something in the search bar, I will give you an example. For example, at Amazon.com, I'm gonna go to that slide. I'm just gonna go to that slide and I'll give you some examples of these things. Okay, so here are some examples of the heuristics. Not everything came out of the expert reviews, but I already had these slides which can give you an example of these heuristics. So the first one is visibility of system status. That's the first heuristic. And you can think about a spinner or a loader, a progress bar. So these are things that you need in every application. And you would be surprised how many times you click on a button and you're not sure if something happened, and you're waiting, okay, should I click again? It's something so basic, and still it happens so many times still that it's not there. So I gave the presentation a couple of times. I also asked some developers if it's possible. And they say, yes, this is something we can automate. We can scan all the elements of a page, and we can check if there is somewhere in the page, of course, a spinner or a loader. Of course, it's more difficult to check if you click on a button and then wait and then find it out. But at least you can see if there are spinners there. And with AI, I'm sure you can do more than when this project started 2 years ago. The use of icons. This is something that came out of the expert review at the police. Okay, if you look at these icons, the first icon, what do you think it's going to be? Put something in the chat. Okay, thank you. Yes. And the second one? Oh. Yes, the second favorite. Look, this is what is used at the Dutch police. Don't tell everybody I told you. But this is what we had at our intranet. The shopping cart is not shopping cart, it's self-service. And it didn't even dawn to me. I use it I don't use it a lot, but yeah, I don't know, I found it. But now I was thinking, it's a shopping cart, it has nothing to do with self-service. What is the best icon? I don't know. And the favorite icon was used for teams, and that's something I don't even understand, but at least they have teams in the Dutch police where you can have more information about a certain team. But this is misuse of these icons, because everybody knows, for example, a magnifying glass, or okay, not everybody knows this one anymore, I guess, at this, but those are the idea of an icon is that you can see in one glimpse, one glance, hey, this is a shopping cart, or this is something that's my favorite. But if you're using it for something different, the whole idea of using an icon is gone. So this is something that you can automate, and that you can inform your team about, if you see an icon that is not used in the way you're used to. And this is what the ladybug could say. The ladybug. Please use the icons as expected. I see other uses for the shopping cart icon and the favorite icon. This text is something I just came up with today. It could also be nicer, maybe. The second one, match between system and the real world. So we already had the use of icons. And the second one is the use of jargon versus natural language. And in the Netherlands, we have a website. It's called Is het B1? So is it B1? And B1 is that thing I was trying to tell you, fluent, or the other word. So can you speak basic and more than basic English? And Netherlands is B1. And this is a website already existing in the Netherlands. So for every word you can check, is this B1? Is this a word that everybody will understand? And the word jargon, which I just used, is not B1. So I hope you understand. But this is just something, bam, we can connect to the Ladybug, and we can check if all words on the website or the content of your page is B1. So that's, and of course, there's a little bit of nuance. So the Ladybug should not say, no, this is bad. It should inform you, because you are allowed to use jargon if it's in the context. For example, in intranet, it's explaining something about the application, and in the application you can do things that a policeman does, which is not something that every Dutch person uses these words. But for this application, this is what the application does. So you cannot find other words, and it's for the people who know what it means. So it's not always black and white. Like, no, you can never use these words. So the context is important, and I think AI can also help us in this. User control and freedom. This is one of my examples that I love. It's not this exact example came out of the expert reviews we did, but we did come into a category of user control. And this is the example I always use with Google. Now I feel old because this wasn't always in Google. The undo option. So you sent a mail, and then, oops, I forgot the attachment. And then now there's an option to undo. And this wasn't there. Maybe it's a couple of years. I don't know how many years, but suddenly it was there. And it's great. It's great UX. You can undo things, redo, and cancel. So the Ladybug should give you information about that. Each dialog should have a cancel button, for example, and this is something you can test easily automatically. The consistency and standards, and this is something that also came out of the expert review. If you have a page which has 3 buttons, you cannot have 3 primary buttons. They cannot have the same weight. So you cannot have all of the buttons on your page have the same color and the same urgency. So usually at websites, you want one call to action, one thing that the user wants to do on this page, and the other things are secondary or tertiary. It's, you want them to know what they come to do on this page. And on an intranet, you'd have no primary buttons. You have 3 secondary buttons. So, okay, what do you want me to do? Where do I have to click? So this is really important to know that there are primary, secondary, and tertiary buttons, and that all of these buttons should have the same styling. So if you have a primary button on one page and it looks like this, and on another page you have a primary button and it looks differently, the Ladybug could tell you, hey, I see 2 primary buttons, but they look differently. What's up? Headings in the right order, accessibility, same icon for the same person. So consistency, yeah, I think you get it. The same words, so don't use different words for the same thing. It only confuses your users. And standard placing of icons. So also something that Ladybug can do. Aesthetics and minimalist design. This is also something that came out of the expert reviews. Sometimes, as the example with all the buttons, you miss the focus. What do you want a person to do on this website? Something's happening on the left, something's happening on the right. You have a yellow box on the upper or the lower right. So something there's happening a lot, and it's nice to give your user some focus. So what do you want the user to do on this website? Give some extra text about what the goal is of something that you can achieve on the website, and don't use too many buttons and things all over the place. So focus is something that came out of it, which I can put under this heuristic. But also there is somebody, Philip Paul Grima from the University of Malta, which I am in contact with him via the RisingSTAR Award. And he is investigated a tool for automated aesthetic evaluation of websites. So, bam, API. Let's put those things together, and then we don't have to put a lot of energy in this because he's already doing it. We want to make sure the Ladybug is a reality very soon, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Help users recognize, and about this, he's doing it with the weight of colors and about another object. So if there's a lot of objects on the left and no objects on the right, it will calculate the aesthetics of your website. 9, help users recognize and diagnose from errors. This is also something actually we did not test yet with the expert review, this 404 page, but we did come up with help users recover from errors. And this is an example I use a lot. And I think we're going to do it in the next expert review. Look at this 404 page, because this is actually very easy. It's something that Nielsen and Norman tell us. When you have a 404 page, don't make something really fun out of it with things people don't understand. Be clear. Do three things. Inform users when an error has occurred. There is an error. That's good. Tell users what went wrong, what happened, the connection was lost, or this page is not there, and offer users a solution. If the page is not there, what can I do? So give them a link. Never keep them somewhere 404, nothing, and they have no way to get out of this state. It's important to have a link in the body of this website. So here you have home. Of course, usually you have a menu and you have a footer, but you want them to have a link in the body. So that's something also that the Ladybug could do. No link on a 404 page. Help your users navigate away from this page. Okay, and this is the example that I wanted to give you earlier. This is something that happened last 3rd of April in the expert review of Amazon we did in the Ladybug meetup. You can all join the Ladybug meetup if you're interested. I was looking for Jelak because I just had to look for something, and that just came out to mind. I needed my Jelak base and top coat, but look what I got: children's seats. So this, for me, Amazon is not really reliable. It's such a big website. It's so well known, but yeah, how does the search work? Why is the search so not as I expect? So I think this is really important for reliability of the website. Of course, people still keep going to Amazon. So for a big company like this, it's maybe less important. But if you're starting small, and if you're a tester on a website like this, yeah, make sure that the website is reliable and there's not weird things happening that you don't expect, things not really working, not functioning as they should. So this is something that came out of the expert review. Okay, so we're done with the examples. The Ladybug is a solution to our problems, and I put them together. So it will work structuredly according to the 10 heuristics. It will teach testers on how to test UX. It will save time. It is automated, of course. Those two are interlinked. And it will help you articulate the problem to convince your business. Oh, and this is yeah, I'm going really fast. Sorry but yeah, it's a 4:45, so that's fine. Because I had this presentation today, I wanted actually to really show you not the design of the application, but the real application. And I thought AI is growing so fast, it should be able to make this tool now. I had a long conversation with ChatGPT today, and I asked him a lot of questions on if you look at Amazon.com, what can you tell me about the heuristics? Are they used well on this website? And it gave me a lot of information. Not exactly as I was hoping, but still, you can do something already with the AI that is there. And this is something I made. I did a bachelor in artificial intelligence. I know a little bit about AI, and I also know a little bit about code, but it has been 100 years ago when I at last did test automation. And that's the only coding I have done in the past years. So I'm really bad at coding. So I just asked ChatGPT, give me the code of of this website and give it the styling. So this is what happened. And I didn't change anything. So not the name and everything. Hey, okay, it's really stupid actually. But for me, for somebody who's not able to really do anything in GitHub yet, this is something that's already on GitHub. It's pushed and everybody can see it on github.com. So yeah, I was happy, and I tried to increase the styling. So I told them, yes, for each visibility system status, for each heuristic, give me an explanation of why, what do you think about Amazon.com, because we did Amazon in the test. What do you think? And then he gave me a lot of information. And then I said, okay, put it in a table and maybe in an accordion. So you first see the grades, the numbers, like visibility system status 8, and then you can have an accordion to see what is based on this number. But somehow ChatGPT could not help me. He gave me a lot of code, but it didn't work. It looked nice, but the accordion didn't work. I also asked for a pie chart. The pie chart was so big, the entire page blew up, and the performance was really slow. So maybe ChatGPT is not the best tool for this, but I am convinced that AI is going to help me this year to realize this ladybug. And if not, I hope that people are here who have the expertise to help me. The next tools I am going to look into, I also looked into a little bit, but not a lot of time yet. Builder.io, which transforms Figma design. So that design I showed you in the beginning is in Figma. It transforms Figma designs into optimized web and mobile experiences with half the effort. And that last thing, half the effort, is something I missed. I thought I was just going to have to click, boom, and then there was code. But unfortunately, you still have to put in some effort. So I will see if there's another tool or another way to transform my design, the design that we made in the UX Testing Guild, to real code. And Canonic offers the ability to create AI-generated full-stack applications without requiring any code of knowledge. And that I have not a lot of knowledge of code. I'm not afraid to read it, but I cannot write it. So yeah, Canonic may be something in the coming year that will help bring the ladybug to life. So who knows? And I'm thinking even about organizing the next meetup on Ladybug about these tools, that we can just play with these AI tools and see how far we come. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Because it's possible, I just put up my LinkedIn QR code. So feel free to connect